Alright, hey guys, it's time to do another review. And today we have Psaro, who is a Dragon Quest character. I do believe that he is from Dragon Quest 4 originally, but I am not a super big up on the no Dragon Quest person. So yeah, if I make any kind of mistake about this character, apologies, it's just not overly my thing. And after a ice character, here comes the first fire character in a good long time. It has been a while since we have seen a new fire elemental character, and he is a 90 cost limited one. So today we're going to be taking a look at him, giving him a bit of a showcase and review, and seeing if we overall like him or not. And first, we'll show off the limit burst animation, as we usually do. It's a good idea to just show this off, although I'm not entirely convinced that there isn't an error. This seems to appear both on my phone and emulated version of this game. I mean, his teleport looks kind of weird. Maybe a Dragon Quest person can comment on whether or not he doesn't look as big in his limit burst as he does in his picture. But anyway, basically kind of the same banners that we saw with the new ice elemental character, the demon lord Zima. No, it's Zoma. Basically the same kind of deal. And one other thing, there is a VC coming the following week that is attached to the raid, but it is not, and I want to repeat this for everybody at home, it's not guaranteed to be a fire VC. As a matter of fact, I mean, there could be another vision card coming the following week for fire element that's not collaboration, but the only two collaboration cards that we know of for Dragon Quest, and probably the only ones that are going to be for Dragon Quest, are the one that come with the VC, which is likely to be a slime one, and the one that came the previous week, which was just a job VC. So there could be a new job VC for this character, but I just want to make it evidently clear that at this point in time there isn't a definitive set fire vision card, and that will be a considering factor for this character. So let's head over excuse me, to a mission, and we are going to actually quite a bit show off this guy. I'm just thinking to myself which is the best one for kind of doing a bit of a showcase. Which one's probably a little too, I just want to go with this one. Same one as what we did Zoma with. Alright, so bringing up my fire elemental team here, just because I was on ice earlier for farming. We do have available access to the friend unit, and with a entire fire elemental party, you can get an idea for what this character effectively looks at. First of all, incredibly high speed. 109 is a very fast character. I mean, he does have Odin, and he does have this vision card, which is a newer one, but it isn't contributing a super amount to agility, and you can get an idea for what kind of vision cards I have here. He just seems to be pretty damn fast overall. HP, definitely not spectacular though. This could be just my lack of vision cards, but you look at also what other characters in this party roughly have, and you know, seems to be on par with some of the DPS that I have. 1500 attack though, 18 defense, 7 spirit, and of course, equipment that he does have. I'll just show this off really quick. DMR we'll talk about in a second. Let's head back. And first, talk about this sword. This is the sword for him. This is his own event-based weapon. As you can see, this is the assault version, not an incredibly high amount of attack. Does have a little bit of magic and critical, and it does give slash attack up overall generally, which honestly is not overly impressive. Most swords have something comparable to this. What is better is this exclusive bonus, and it's only for him, slash attack resistance of 20, or sorry, slash attack resistance penetration of 20, AP consumption down by 15, luck increased by 15%. So this sword is a contributing factor to how damage he is capable of doing, but unless you have specifically Psaro, this sword is pretty garbage by today's standards, and definitely not worth considering for anyone else. You know what, let's continue doing equipment really quickly here. And his TMR is a 212 HP, 5 defense, 5 spirit, 3 agility, 15 evade. So overall, a good piece of equipment. I do like that it has a speed attached to it, and that it has a little bit of evasion because it is kind of important for Psaro. But as we get to the end of this review, I'll talk about my overall thoughts about that, especially in combination with this. Now, this does have a single cast, grants haste for 3 turns, and decreases the chance of being targeted by 6. This is really key and important for talking about Psaro's kit as a whole, and him as a damage dealer, and him as a unit. Now, of course, you don't need to run his TMR, and I don't think you should run this TMR because it really is going to conflict with his kit. But given the AP consumption and some of the other stuff, I mean, figuring out what will be his best equipment may not necessarily be bells, but it almost certainly isn't his own TMR. And his TMR is probably better on others. It is considered a clothing piece of equipment, so it could potentially go on a fair number of other units, but units that are effectively looking for faster turns and less chance being targeted. So, I don't know. If it could work on a healer, maybe that's where you'd want to look at. I'm just looking at the list of characters that can equip it, and it is a fair amount. Even the Persona characters, for example, or well, Slime can equip everything, so that's not a bad one. Gunbreaker, there you go. That's the unit we're really looking for. As for master ability, besides the fire unit, other fire unit stuff, increases slash attack resistance penetration by 15, so 35 in total for him, and acquired AP up by 30 for self. Now, I really do like that they've effectively, even at the start, before we've gotten into the rest of his kit and talking about his kit, they've really given him a good amount of AP discount and generation that is not, how to say it, it's not based on anything that can be canceled out, so he just always has this access to high AP acquisition and low cost, which is overall just a benefit for him as a character. Now, looking at resistance, it's very clear that of exactly who they are targeting here. This Psaro that is a friend unit is specifically built to be against anti-ice characters that are ranged. And yeah, it really does show in Psaro's kit that they want him to be an answer for ice, what is currently good, really, really strong in ice. And given that he's a limited time character and his kit is kind of not just awkward, I think that will generally hurt him and keep ice ice ranged very strong for the future. But even so, he doesn't have the greatest of matchups in terms of other damage types if we're looking at going up against his worst counter, or his big counter, which is water. Astoria would easily eat him alive, and so would a ton of water mages. So while this character seems pretty strong, he does have very obvious counters and very powerful counters in his opposing element. And I don't even think that his matchups in the other direction is really that good. Or, sorry, his matchups from other elements, I should say. Specifically wind, which is incredibly prominent on JP. If Sidali was to charm this guy, which, just taking a peek, he has no charm resistance whatsoever, he could be an incredible asset for the other team and really bad for himself. So yeah, all of that taken into consideration, I think I've hopefully painted a good picture here. We'll finish up talking about his limit burst. It dispels all buffs, all haste, physical and magical barrier, and deals a 240 mod. What's important about this limit burst is that it is a really big damage AoE single target nuker that can effectively get rid of a lot of stuff on a unit before dealing damage. And that's kind of the thing that this unit is going to be really good at overall, damage type. But also, interestingly, quite possibly may not be good at damage types. Alright, so let's take a look at his sub-jobs, because unfortunately, as always with the friend unit, they're not on display. So Samurai, People mostly know Samurai. It has gotten mildly buffed recently to be a little bit better overall with AoE resistance and evasion, increasing bravery. When the target is killed, can generate AP for himself. So he has some stuff, but overall, Samurai doesn't really have much range, and that is going to be a thing that could get this character killed. He doesn't exactly have great range options most of the time, and I don't think Samurai is going to be really that much of a benefit to his kit. Even now, there is the evasion rate thing, but evasion on the JB side is maybe not what some globalers are thinking it is, and fire evasion just doesn't feel good. It still doesn't feel good, and there's probably not enough in this kit, because you look at some evasion from his TMR, which we'll talk about his TMR again in a little bit, you know, some increased luck and whatnot. It feels way weaker than light evasion. So unless there's specifically a really high-powered evasion card coming in the future, even if I don't think it really does enough for the other fire units, I don't really like Samurai as a whole for this unit. Trick Lancer, on the other hand, does give him some more DPS range options. It can give him chances of causing immobilize, although I think with a physical unit like this, you're never going to be wanting that high of faith, as it just puts him in a more worse position. He can potentially remove evasion from other units, but accuracy may not be this guy's necessarily strong suit. So yeah, Trick Lancer does give him some other damage options and some decent range on some abilities, but honestly, I'm not overly enthused about Trick Lancer either. It's fine, and I like it better than Samurai. Samurai, I guess if you were going for an evasion build, but as we're going to get to, I don't think evasion is what we're going to necessarily want here. And for damage, Trick Lancer might be good, so let's take a look at the opposing, what you would be giving up. So first of all, this one, a 240 mod with a negative hit chance according to Wotv, but a critical chance of incredibly high. This is basically a huge damage nuke on a single target. Problem is it has no range on it, and I don't like that. Sure, I guess sometimes when you get into a slap fight with other characters, this will be good, it is a hit chance. This is kind of interesting, but I think most of the time this ability is never going to do as much as you want. As for this one, long range AoE that decreases slash resistance I think is actually pretty good, and has some potential synergy with other fire slash based characters. And with Reagan coming in the future, since we don't know if Reagan's fire, ice, or maybe even both, as in Wotv, as in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, he was a fire and ice character, there might be some really good synergy here, but at the same time, this just feels like a generally overall good ability. And I kind of like it more than Samurai, and I like it more than Trick Lancer, because I'm essentially looking at this character as primarily just a DPS. So taking a look at the main part of his kit, we have this one, which decreases accuracy, but there's no range on this. The only other thing really of note is this is his only chaining option in his entire kit. That has some intrinsic value, but overall the range on it is pretty not great. All right, looking at this one next, we have an agility buff and an evasion rate buff. Now this is what really kills Samurai for me, because he has this here, he doesn't need it anywhere else, and I just don't think you're really going to run Samurai. I think you can just run this and potentially keep his primary job, even in the sub part, and get much better benefits out from that. Alright, and that's his job level 25. We'll save that for a bit. Now this one is a upgraded ability, and this one is his Guts, or Immortal Spirit. Basically his chance to ignore fatal damage. And interestingly, into his EX, it does restore 20 AP for himself and give a 200% chance for physical damage of 20%. So it effectively looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, it is the Astoria one, and we'll check it out when we try him out in a second here. And this ability is proven to be really strong on high damage dealer attackers, And it's kind of interesting. This is available so long as he has the Ignore Fatal status effect, and he gets 2 casts of this. All of this is one of the strongest parts of his kit, but as you can see, if you don't have really good fire HP up cards, he may not necessarily, you may be like running really quickly out how much you can actively use that ability, so that's a little bit concerning. Now, this next ability has a pretty high range on it and can be increased through EX in terms of its capabilities. So into EX basically decreases healing power by 60, decreases attack by 43%, decreases defense by 30, and is also a non-elemental damage. So that's kind of interesting. Non-elemental nukes, I really like when we have an alternate for elemental damage in a unit's kit. And I think that overall this is a lot of down power. It is on a single target though, and that is a little bit concerning. Last that we have here is his AoE ability. Now this one is just a 200 mod. It does have an increased hit chance, but unlike some of the other ones, doesn't feel incredibly flexible, and that's kind of a range issue for him overall. The last one is an AoE. This is his job level 25, breaking physical barriers, dispelling ignore fatal damage for the target, and a 200% mod. All of this is really good overall, but there are some glaring problems with his kit. There is no mass AoE here that can be potentially good for AoE farming. He really doesn't contribute too much to other fire elemental characters. And most of his kit, while having good mods and potentially good effects overall, none of this kit feels incredibly synergistic. And there's one other thing that you'll note is that none of his kit, in terms of the attacking ones, really give him any kind of a buff. Lots of debuffs, lots of removal of beneficial things for the opponent, but nothing here that really stands out to increase his damage in any other way. And that brings us to one of the things that I hate the most about his kit, which is his counter. Now, this is the only counter here I think that you would be reasonably running, but the problem is that this is a potential 100% chance to activate the effects when evading. Increase defense penetration by 20 for 3 turns himself, increase slash attack resistant penetration by 20. Now overall, if you include everything that we've looked at in it so far, boy does that sound good. I mean, you have a lot of slash attack resistance penetration on a slash character. That is all really good. Getting defense penetration from any extra source is good. The problem is that this counter really relies on him evading, and the evasion here is not here. It really isn't. This isn't like Light, where Light can stack an incredibly high amount of evasion, and that also leads us to another problem. Again, on JP, Light evasion has seen the sun setting. So for a new element to come in here and try and do evasion when Light can barely do evasion against what Ice is doing, their hyper accurate elements, it really puts this counter into an incredibly bad light. And a super accurate team is going to remove this character from getting extra capability of dealing damage. And when you include that with not really many big AoEs that we've seen on more recent units, I honestly think that this unit is kind of meh, just from this perspective. It depends, like, part of his damage up requires him to actually evade something, and the odds just don't look really good. You could potentially shut this character down really hard because he is a damage dealer and he does want access to more damage stuff. Now, with that being said, we'll take a look at these. So first of all, this one. This ability, or wait, no, so I want to talk about, clicking on the wrong stuff. This one first. So this one is an agility plus 12%. Good. No problems. Already like it. Here we see a couple of new things in terms of a increased missile evade stat 25 and a magical evasion of 25. But it does nothing against swords, it does nothing against spears, and it does nothing against fists. This is very interesting because it's categorical evasion for a specific type. So great. He has a potential chance to really smoke it into a very specific team. But again, I want to point out the picture of you are trying really hard to get this character, and he's really good in a specific matchup. If everything goes perfectly and you get a dodges and everything is just rosy, it doesn't feel universally good to me because of this. And I know that I can already hear fire people saying like, Umbra, you shouldn't be saying this. I mean, blah, 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 you're just a hater. But this is my opinion of what I actually think. Now, last is this. Now, this has a 50% chance that the counter doesn't proc, and a 200% chance of physic damage by 20% per self. So this is kind of interesting. Basically, if he takes enough damage, this kind of effect activates. Now, given that he has a lot of capability of dealing a fair amount of damage and he has survival, this might be interesting, but there's quite a few things missing his kit. He doesn't have any HP regeneration. He's really depending on being able to keep that immortal spirit effect in effect for an incredibly long time, and if he loses it, I just feel like he loses a lot. So for sake of seeing how good of a DPS he is, we're going to be running him on a little bit of a different weird team here. We're going to be running him on a water team. You can see his stats do take a drop, but I'm curious about how he will perform against other water-based characters in dealing damage. And not only that, but without the vision card, a lot of the vision cards of fire, especially this card, which has human killer on it for fire elemental characters, how it will exactly match up. So let's go in. This is going to be a long video, but that's what you came here for. Now, we don't really care. I think for the first little bit, we're going to be running very specific buffs at the start of this. I do want to try, for instance, trying some evasion-based buffs and seeing how accurate his character is against other evasion characters. I also want to just generally test about how capable he is of dealing with characters like Astoria and whatnot. So we're going to be testing a whole bunch of things here. And we don't really care about the enemy units so much. We know basically, that we are going to be dealing a fair amount of damage to them. So let's just wait. We're going to also get our wonderful lady here working on some stuff. All right. And now we get Psaro. Now, Psaro, which do we want first? Do we want this one with the accuracy and whatnot? I think we want to run his guts first. Taking a look at his kit, you can already see that his limit burst is a little bit discounted and all of his kit is effectively discounted. So let's get this nice 20 AP generation, and we're just gonna wait it out. Pass a whole bunch of turns because we're not too terribly worried. A little bit rude from the enemies, but hey, if they come to us, that's just easy. Alright, so taking a look, we can see that this is effectively what his kit looks like with the guts benefit. And this is what I want to bring up, one extra thing really quickly that I didn't talk about in his kit, but as some people have noticed that this review is probably less on the positive side, I do want to talk about the fact that his TMR actively works against what makes his kit even better. Basically, the hate generation down on this TMR effectively means that it is less likely to be targeted, which means he's less likely to evade an attack, which means that he's less likely to power up his kit. I mean, effectively with an evasion anyway, what you're looking to get out of your character being attacked is effectively a miss, so your opponent wasted the entire turn. So, in theoretically, like, you don't even want this guy to potentially be a tank. You'd want hate generation, not hate removal. But unfortunately, his TMR is classified as a decreased chance of being targeted. And I don't know if the devs thought that this was a bonus of the idea that, well, you want him to be a sneaky character, right? But actively, like in his kit, we want him to be targeted. We want him to be targeted more than other characters. And we want those more evasion so that it can proc and get effectively power up his attack. I am kind of talking like Porky Pig at the moment. But taking a look at a regular attack, even right now, he only has a 41% accuracy against Farm, which is not super great because Farm, while built to be a accurate, not exactly the most evasion-based character, you can see here that we are effectively getting quite a bit of hit removal. Then you take a look at what his limit burst, a massive damage dealing, and yes, we are missing fire damage based vision cards, but there's a good chance with the amount of limited fire elemental vision cards that are out there that you're also going to be missing some. Look at the damage that this character is now capable of. And he does have Human Killer on. Maybe not necessarily in prime spot. That is definitively a bit of a problem. But you can see just how much damage he's effectively doing against water and how little it's capable of doing. Even against where we could potentially get here, against multiple characters, you can see that he is just going to get retributed a fair amount. Looking at Astrius just taking a clean chunk out of his skull if we were to potentially attack, and a decent percent hit chance too. So we're going to run his evasion buff, and it doesn't particularly matter if we use it on Found, but let's see how in a fire evasion character with very little extra movement. And as you can see, this is another thing that I was just not overly convinced on, is the fact that he the evasion just doesn't quite stack up against some of the accuracy that some can do. And there are way more accurate elements than water. Sure, water does have accuracy, but I just don't think it counts as much. Even looking at some of what this character is capable of doing, it's just kind of way more damage than he can already take. So let's get out of here. Let's just go over here really quickly and get rid of this guy because he's bugging me. And he's dead. Super. Again, taking a look at Astrius, who has very little, but can potentially deal a massive amount of damage, and does have a secondary hit which will remove guts. Is problematic with this character. And as you can see, we are capable of dealing a lot of different ways of dealing with this character. Even if we were to functionally use Celeste as a tank and less as a damage dealer, you can get an idea for just how much damage. Here we actually are seeing that the evasion bonus is causing a little bit, but not even below 50% makes this feel way more difficult than it should be for recommending a brand new spanking character. So we will just bring out our Psaro here and start getting him to potentially attack. Now, as you can see, this is another thing that I have been concerned about, is just his range. We really are missing just a fair amount of range on a lot of its kit, which makes it a little more difficult to target characters. Within one more turn, we'll definitely get there, but again, let's see if we can just get there with some others. Yeah, does feel a little clunky, not super bad, but not super great either. We'll head over here and just get rid of that one. Knit. Thank you. And now it's the Psaro show. So let's see what Psaro can get up to. Again, casting his TMR has effectively made him, does focus on a tank, but unfortunately not necessarily on the unit that we want. We're going to generate a lot of AP here and just let him go wild in a turn. Next up, we will make sure that the animations are turned on. Oh, animations are already turned on. Good for me. Do the limit burst. Wait, oh shoot, animated. Alright, well, we already saw that. Well, that's staying in. Bring him over here. And we're going to try and force the enemy to specifically go after Psaro and get him hit as much as possible. So that was one failed evasion. 2 failed evasions. There we go. So we did end up getting it on the 3rd go, which is pretty okay. Can get a little bit of an AoE here, getting some extra damage in. Moving in, and we're just going to let him go to town on these guys. And see if we can't get a little more data. Well, Farm is capable of evading. Good job, Farm. Guess we'll have to pull Farm a little further back. Oh, well, we got 2, so it's 2 out of 4 so far. I do feel a little silly doing this, but we are doing some tests. We'll run that buff again, just in case it runs out, so we're having a fair shot at this. Khaled has run out of AP, unfortunately. Alright, 3 out of 6. Not bad against regular enemies on a level, what is it, 80 man? Here's on a level 60 man. Right, skip down, skip down, skip down, skip down, skip down. Some neat animations, for sure. That might be the thing that tickles your fancy. See if we can get one more attack from Cowlet here. See if we get one more evasion. Right, well, I guess we're going to wait for one more turn. They're all like, oh, Farm, man. The Farm's the one I want to fight. I have the biggest crush on Farm. Yeah! I know that he gets an attack eventually down the... Right, come on. Yes. Alright, so we got a fair amount of evasions against PvE characters, but PvE characters do not necessarily make. Alright, so let's see what we can do. Even its accuracy against this feels a little... not so good. If we can't just see what some of the damage is that he's capable of doing. And finish it up with a nice little 2-hitter. Alright, so let's review this character, and while we're reviewing it, I'll also shuffle right the heck over to show off his limit burst one before we end the video. And this is a long one, but we got quite a fair bit of testing in. So here's the thing. Overall, Psaro is a 90 cost limited unit, 3 move, 2 jump, and is one of the long-awaited fire elemental new characters that I think some people have been wanting, or at least fire as an element has felt pretty scant for new characters for a good long while now. As a matter of fact, on JP, the previous one would have been Delita, who also was... Alright, so here's the pros. Slasher and Nuker, I think with a proper fire elemental team, his damage will be more solid. He has a lot of buff removal, and he can do a fair various number of things, but that's effectively where I want to say that the overall benefits kind of end. His kit is awkward. If you look at his entire kit, including the TMR as being part of it, it really doesn't make any sense. He is an evasion character, but he also has hate down, even though you kind of want him to be attacked, so he can be a more effective damage dealer. The ideal thing is for him to get attacked, it to miss, him to get a buff, and then move in and effectively go against Ice Slash. Even the parts of his kit that feel more specific against certain damage types feels like it leaves him way more open to other damage types. The fact that he has like specific evasion for shooting and magic, when I'm not convinced that's necessarily the best course of action most times, but also it just feels like a little bit misplaced, and the evasion really falls flat, especially against other damage types. He just doesn't have enough evasion, and any team with any amount of accuracy, which if this character did become popular, would probably shut down anything that this character is really hoping to get out of evasion anyway. Most of his kit isn't even really all that evasion pro, it's just a thing that kind of helps his damage, but again, coming back to his identity, is effectively a damage dealer. Next up is VCs, and I still think that VCs are always going to be a consideration with Fire. It's not like Dark where anyone can just pick this character up. If you are a brand new player and you're looking to use this character, I feel like just the amount of Fire VCs that you're missing just would overall bring down this character in terms of ease of use and how strong he would be for new players. Zoma felt much stronger the previous week because of access to much easier vision cards that would power up his kit way sooner without having to wait for a limited time event to come back around. And we don't even know 100% that he is going to get a specific Fire VC. It may be a Job VC next week, which would kind of suck a little bit, as Fire is feeling like it needs a little bit more power up. And overall, counter to a lot of elements is questionable here. Ice is already hyper accurate, so for an evasion character to go up against Ice, especially in a mediocre element at evasion, doesn't feel super recommendable. Yeah, overall, this is a unit that I definitely don't recommend. I feel like Gumi probably erred on the side of caution with this unit just a bit, because the big thing that is that he is not a human character. He is classified as a different species, and that does give him a advantage, but I feel like they maybe went a little too far. He feels like he can be very quick, very powerful, he doesn't feel really all that durable, and I think it would have been probably better if they went the HP route that Astoria had, and it just more copied that. And, just no chaining, no evasion, no real sources of just regular defense penetration, leaves me as feeling that this character is just not my recommendation. I think that, like any UR character, it's definitely better than it can definitely be strong, but I'm just really not convinced, and I'm personally 100% skipping this character and think that would be the same for most people. However, on global, in 3 months, JP should have Reagan, and that might be a much more strong synergy that is capable of really pushing this character further. So for globalers who maybe were really hoping for this to be a great character, put a pin in it. For JP players, though, the investment's just not worth it, especially with Anniversary coming up. I mean, if you look at it, we have new Season of Warrior crystals, we have Halloween units, including Lucia, and we have a brand new, potentially supreme, even double element character coming that is Reagan. And if all of that is the case, then saving your resources is definitely a decision. So sorry for the long review, but since it's a few hours late, I thought I'd put a little bit of extra quality and care into this review. And Psaro, for a new Fire Elemental character, is one that I think people have been waiting for, but I think you should wait just a little bit longer. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next time.